The Buffalo Bills, they're back at the Kansas City Chiefs. The big story, of course, is going to be Patrick Mahomes. It sounds like he's going to be fine. So we're just going to go.
Well, it sounds like he'll play.
He'll play. That's fine for me.
Well, no. Because you see, there was the concussion / stinger / nerve, whatever. That is probably going to be fine. But he also injured his toe, remember? Like before that point, he had dinged his toe up and was kind of limping around the place anyway. So I don't know if that is going to be 100%. And remember...
And that's fine. He did start missing throws left and right after that.
And remember last year when he was injured with, what was it, an ankle and then hurt his ribs? Like Mahomes for a period last season was not playing well and then got healthy and went back to being Patrick Mahomes. So if Mahomes now, this week, is hobbled with turf toe, like that's a pretty significant injury for a quarterback who likes to move around and run around and scramble and not just that, but, throw off your foot. Like your toe is kind of important in terms of just general biomechanics for throwing a football. You might know this, Steve, as a guy that used to throw things for a living.
I do.
Yeah. So if
Mahomes, your whole body, it's full body exercise.
There you go. Yeah. So if Mahomes does have an injured toe, that's significant.
It is. The point I was trying to make is he's going to play. The head injury should be cleared.
Yes.
Now the question is, okay, will the toe injury hurt him from a throwing standpoint? Maybe a little bit. I think you have time to, tape it up and he'll be fine. He'll be fine. The first matchup though was interesting, right? I mean, Allen had one of his worst games of the year. Mahomes was missing a bunch of throws early on. It was windy. The weather was rough, and the Chiefs ran like crazy, over on the Bills. And we've used this narrative all year that the Bills, they like to do that. They're inviting you to run. They want you to run the ball against them. They're also not good at stopping the run, right? They're the second worst run defense grade in the entire NFL. Will the Chiefs take the bait here? This is one of the big storylines we talk about in all of these big games, Sam. It seems like the smartest teams are saying, come on, please take the ball out of your quarterback's hands. And it's even more crucial this weekend as 4 of the top 5 graded PFF quarterbacks are still playing, including Allen and Mahomes here.
Yeah, I do wonder, though, if the Mahomes injury changes that game plan a little bit, because I would generally agree that I think the general perception of the first game plan that Buffalo had is not the same as the sort of PFF interpretation of it, right? Generally, I think our interpretation of it was that's a smart thing to do, right? This is the best offense in the NFL. You're probably not going to stop them, so let's invite them to do the thing that's least efficient. And they'll take it, apparently. Like if you say, we're going to give you a light box all day long, 6 guys, you should run the ball because you have a favorable matchup. They apparently are all too happy to do that and rack up, a couple of 100 yards on the ground. But while you're doing that, you're not picking up 10 yards per pass attempt and carving you up through the air. So you're essentially you're inviting them, and they're accepting the invitation to make themselves less efficient on offense. So I think generally we would look at that and say, that's not a bad thing to be doing. And let's do it again. You didn't win the game last time, but it was because, as you said, Josh Allen didn't have a particularly good game. If Josh Allen has his usual excellent game and you do that again to the Chiefs offense, you probably do win the second time of asking.
So the point of this strategy, though, so the first matchup, right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire against 6 or fewer defenders in the box, right? And just for perspective here for people, the average box defenders is about 7, right? You have 7 guys in the box. And the old school way of playing football is, okay, you bring the 8th guy down, and for the most part, most formations, you've got every gap covered, plus you have an unblocked defender to take on the running back. And that's how you stop the run historically. So when you have 6 or fewer defenders in the box, at best, the offense is going to have, at worst, they're going to have the 5 offensive linemen. They generally have a tight end or whatever, and it's even, and it's to the offense's advantage. That is the time when it's actually more effective to run the ball. Now, the key to this strategy, though, is to not give up 8.1 yards per carry as they did the first time, the Bills.
Yeah.
Edwards-Helaire had 13 carries for 105 yards. That's 8.1 against 6 or fewer defenders in the box. So the strategy was fine. And the goal would be to hold them to 5 yards per carry, not 8. Hold them to about 5 yards per carry for just, simplistic terms. And that just takes the ball out of Mahomes' hands one extra time, which means that's one fewer huge play that Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce can make. That's the strategy. So I think the Bills didn't execute it perfectly because they gave up probably still more than you would like. But I use the same term I used last week, the race for 30. When you're playing the Chiefs, you have to try to get to 30 as much as possible. And I think your goal should be to keep that offense under 30. And the more they hand the ball off, the more that's likely.
So last time, Kansas City had 39 rush attempts against Buffalo. Do you know how many times they faced 8 guys in the box?
3, 4? Probably
Zero.
Not even. I figured it'd be like goal line runs or something.
Not once. They didn't have a single play where they had 8 guys in the box. You know how many times they had 6 or fewer guys in the box?
15 or 20.
15.
Yeah.
So 15 attempts with a really light box and not one with a heavy box. It was a genuine concerted effort to do that, right? They completely invited Kansas City to run the ball, and the Chiefs were only too happy to do that. What intrigues me, though, is if Mahomes comes out and on that toe is not the same guy, right? If he's slightly limited, if he's not playing his usual, laser pinpoint accuracy, if he's not comfortable running around and making plays and all those kinds of things, and this was your game plan, let's have light box, drop everyone off into coverage, tell them to run the ball and hand it off and not attack us with the pass. But suddenly, Mahomes looks vulnerable. Do you adjust? Do you go after him? Do you cause him problems? Because remember, the other interesting sort of blueprint throughout this season for causing Mahomes problems was the Raiders, who their front seven almost seemed to play like the entire front seven was a spy, right? So you kind of sit back, you wait till Mahomes does Mahomes things, which is start running out of a clean pocket to make plays, and the second he breaks cover, all 7 guys run after him and converge on him, right? And when they did that, it caused him real issues because normally when he breaks contain and starts running off into the flat, there's one guy chasing him down and Mahomes is just buying time until somebody uncovers and he hits him, right? When the entire front seven essentially is acting as a spy, the second he broke contain, there was 4 guys around him and he had to get rid of the ball quickly and it didn't go particularly well. So if he's hobbled and isn't 100% himself, the Bills have the speed on defense. Tremaine Edmonds, those safeties, they could execute that kind of game plan and put him under real pressure in the situations that he usually murders people in.
Yeah, it's a good call out because I think with Mahomes, so I don't think his mobility was affected that much last week.
Well, that was 5 minutes after injuring it. What is it like a week later?
Well, you tell me, doctor.
I've never injured my toe. I don't know.
Can you call your dad or something and
yeah, we'll do that. Yeah,
let's get him on. Let's get him live.
Get him live. Yeah,
Dr. Monson, we need to figure out how much Mahomes is going to be hobbled here. So the strategy you're talking about with the Raiders too is just it's knowing the pass rush lanes, knowing your lanes and kind of knowing. I think the teams that do it best, they have discipline with their pass rush lanes, and then they know where Mahomes is going to try to escape, and that's when they collapse on him, right? And that's when they try to make things a little bit more difficult. So I think the Bills could employ that strategy and be smart. It's also a different Bills team than it has been in previous years where their pass rush is just much deeper than it used to be. We mentioned this last week too. It used to just be Jerry Hughes. And now Ed Oliver's done a pretty nice job. I mean, they've got...
Not last week.
Not last week. I'm just saying overall. Yeah. Run defense-wise, Oliver's been rough. I gave the scouting report a couple weeks ago. It's been rough. He's been moved at the point of attack. He's not great. But with Oliver, Mario Addison's played well, Quentin Jefferson, all those guys, 30-plus pressures for all of them. They have the guys to maybe put a little bit of pressure, but it's different with Mahomes. You don't want to sell out because it's about pass rush lanes and it's about not letting him escape. But it's a good point. I think his mobility is going to be a key there. I think from a Chiefs standpoint, though, strategically, it might look similar to last week against the Browns. The Bills like to play the too high shell. They like to play, quarters and cover 2 and cover 6 and all the softer zone type of coverages for the most part. And it's going to be the patience. It's going to be Mahomes taking the underneath stuff. Bills don't want to give up the big plays, so it's going to be Kelce and Hill and whoever else underneath. And Mahomes just has to make throw after throw after throw.
Yeah. I do think this is a really intriguing matchup for that game plan reason. It's interesting that both these games are matchups from earlier encounters in the season.
Yep.
The one with the NFC one we talked about, I don't envisage it playing out the same way almost at all. This one could, though. Obviously, the weather is probably going to be less of a factor this time around. But that is a real game plan, I think, that makes sense against Kansas City. The fact that Mahomes is potentially not 100% adds a complicating factor to that and potentially forces you in a different direction, or at least makes you prepare a contingency game plan, right? So that if you roll out there with the same thing and you see Mahomes visibly struggling compared to what he normally does, you can start dialing up some stuff that you've prepared rather than trying to implement it live in the game. But I think that's a very real way of Buffalo doing exactly the same thing as before, which is, relatively speaking, slow down this Kansas City offense. Then the focus goes on the other side of the ball and Josh Allen.
I was going to add one more matchup on that side of the ball, but good segue.
Okay.
Just wanted to say Jerry Hughes versus Mike Remmers. Remmers is filled in pretty well for our boy Mitchell Schwartz due to injury. But, Jerry Hughes playing really, really well. So just keep an eye on that matchup at right tackle. Now to Josh Allen on the other side of the ball. Got to take care of the ball. By the way, he didn't play great against the Ravens last week. 60 PFF grade. So this whole that's why I was kind of laughing at the Brady Breeze. Hey, that's just a bunch old guys just look old and stuff. It's like Brady actually graded better than Josh Allen last week. It's not like Josh Allen isn't old.
No, he's not.
He just had a playoff game that wasn't as good as previous games. Yeah. That's all. I think Allen's going to have to play a special game here. The challenge with the Chiefs defense, the thing we've been harping on really for the last 2 years with their defensive coordinator Spags, is discouraging passes beyond the line of scrimmage. So I think the Bills also have to play that patient game. And this is something that Allen has gotten much better at the last couple of years, taking the underneath stuff and putting together 10 or 12 play drives instead of just trying to hit a home run. So I think it's going to be both. It's going to be both quarterbacks. They're going to drop back 40 plus times or whatever it is. Who's going to make fewer mistakes? Who's going to miss fewer throws? Who's just going to be more efficient? And Allen has shown that he can hang in that arena this year playing that game.
Yeah, and the Chiefs defense was hyper aggressive the last time they played. I guess I would say the weather was probably a part of that. That the passing game is not going to be at its most efficient, so that's when you would dial up crazy pressure and blitz and all those kinds of things. So they blitzed Josh Allen 15 out of 31 dropbacks. Half, essentially. He was under pressure more than half of his dropbacks. Those are numbers that are game over. You don't win games when that happens. I don't think that will necessarily happen again. They might come after him again because for some reason, I was trying to work this out. Well, teams blitz Josh Allen a lot still, right? Even though over a pretty decent period of time now, he has been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL at carving up the blitz. Now, is that a lag factor of teams haven't yet caught up to the idea that he's progressed beyond that now and it's probably not the best thing to do? Or do you look at him and say, all right, it's risky, but it's probably still the best thing to do against him? You might cause some issues, particularly less so a bad mistake and an interception. But if you blitz him, that's when you might get him to hold onto the ball and potentially fumble it away in the pocket and those kinds of things. So I can't work out whether the teams haven't figured out yet that he's better than that now, or if they still just think that that's the best way of attacking him and therefore are going to do it, even though he's currently ripping it to shreds.
I think it's the natural tendency of defensive coordinators to assume veteran quarterback, like Brady, Breeze, Rodgers, all those guys don't get Peyton. They didn't get blitzed a lot at all. You'd say, you got to pressure those guys, but don't blitz because you leave a hole, they're going to find it immediately. But usually young quarterbacks you attack.
Yeah, but usually it's only once they've proved that they don't get beaten by it anymore. Everybody, as you say, young quarterbacks get blitzed a ton, right? And then at some point, the young quarterback proves that, all right, now he can handle the blitz, and you stop doing it because that's a problem, right? If you blitz and they hit you, it's a bigger play. So at some stage, teams then back off, and then you become the Rodgers, Brady, Breeze, Manning, and it's don't blitz those guys. They understand how to beat it. So have we just reached that point now where Josh Allen has crossed that threshold, but teams don't yet believe it? Or do you look at a guy like Allen or like Mahomes or whoever it is and say, whatever you do, you're going to lose. So let's be aggressive and hope we can create a turnover, and that's still the best thing to do.
I think it's the second part. I mean, Mahomes crushes the blitz as much as anybody. because of quick decision making and guys that get open. You beat the blitz by having guys who get open quickly. And to me, that's the bottom line. Both of these teams have guys who get open quickly, right? I mean, they have the Bills, we talked about all year. They've got one of the best receiving cores. We know that the Chiefs have probably the most dangerous receiver plus tight end combination in the NFL. That's how you beat the blitz. Guys who get open quickly. And you have in a scheme that's not making sure, not having everybody run 15 yards down the field every single time. I also think when you attack a Josh Allen, it's for contained purposes as well. You know that a guy, when he breaks the pocket, he's really dangerous. If you do have that extra rusher, it's riskier, but you can at least, play your pass rush lanes, not let him get out of there. I want to see this. I want to see Tyrann Mathieu too. He had the big interception last week. He's just that dude who makes plays all the time, right? In big games. If Allen does make one of those errant throws late over the middle or whatever it is, things that he's done throughout his career, could be Mathieu picking it off. Lining up all over the place, 390 snaps at traditional free safety, about 600 in the box. He'll line up on the line of scrimmage. He lines up all over the place. So just, keep an eye on him.
Yeah. I mean, every one of these games seems to come down to a weird turnover or a play that you can't predict. And those are the things that determine these games. And Tyrann Mathieu is unusually good at creating those. Like always has been throughout his entire career. Just gets himself around the ball and causes problems.
Since 2019, here's Mathieu. 23 tackles for a loss or no gain. That's fourth. 10 interceptions, most among safeties since early 2019, beginning of 2019. Passer rating of 60 when targeted. That's third best. So it's tough to make a consistent impact at safety because teams can avoid you. But Mathieu, since his LSU days, has always been around the football. So I think that's one to keep an eye on as well. By the way, at a macro level, all four teams here, four of the best offenses in the NFL. Mm-hmm. We are going to spend all offseason telling teams to just stock up on receivers and corners. It's what we do. These teams exemplify that. Other than the Packers stocking up on receivers, but they have the best.
Remember last year there was a big anti-analytics movement because you could look at the playoff teams and be like, oh, all these teams are the best running teams in the NFL. What about the run game doesn't matter, analytics nerds? Yeah. And it was like, people were using that as a stick to beat analytics with. This year, it's like, it's the opposite, right? And it probably just shows that, there's a hell of a lot of variance when you get to the playoffs and it's a single knockout tournament. But now it's all the best passing attacks are the teams that are challenging to win the Super Bowl. The 4 out of the 5 best graded quarterbacks are the 4 remaining with a chance to go to and win the Super Bowl. Like, this is the revenge of the analytics year where like everybody wins based off how well you pass the ball and how well you stop the pass, particularly in 2020 when the passing game has never been more powerful because holding has been eradicated and all those kinds of things.
And when you look at all the passing attacks, the Packers, they have Devontae Adams, and they've had secondary options emerge. The Bucs have as well-rounded of a receiving core as any in the league. The Bills have as well-rounded of a receiving core as any in the league, plus Stephon Diggs, top 3 to 5 receiver this year. And then the Chiefs, as we mentioned, with Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce. I mean, so this whole weekend is about playmakers making plays and finding ways to stop those guys. And I think in this one, the Bills defense has a history of doing a pretty good job here, but not so much this year of slowing down opposing passing attacks. And the Chiefs do a good job of at least avoiding big plays. I think that's where the Chiefs at least have the advantage to at least slow down the Bills' passing attack in this one.
Both these defenses, I think there's similarities between them, though, in that I don't think either of them is great, but I think both of them are clever and good at scheming and good at game planning and taking away the one thing that you want to do and at least forcing you to something else.
Yeah.
And they're good enough to win every now and again, right? Whether it's a key third down, whether it's a specific drive and buy you a couple of drives, which for Kansas City was the difference between them losing in the AFC Championship game a couple of years ago and them winning a Super Bowl, right? It's that the defense went from being an atrocity to being just good enough to win a few drives here and there. And when you have Mahomes in that offense, that's all you need. Buffalo is the same thing. Like their defense was just showing up at the key moment against Baltimore every single time. Like a third down, that's when Jerry Hughes would win a pass rush and get there. So I think both these defenses remind me a little bit of each other in that regard.
Don't forget too, Buffalo gave up 3 points last week. There was also like Tre'Davious got whooped on that one route. I mean, it's wide open. Tyler Huntley misses the throw. You can't have those types of breakdowns with Buffalo. Per PFF and PFF ELO, the NFL got it right this game is number 1 versus number 2 in PFF ELO rankings, and then the Bucs Packers is 3 versus 4. Yeah. So the top 4 ranked teams
there you go.
Are all remaining here. This is 1 versus 2. The Chiefs are 5th in offense. Bills are 6th. Bills are 8th in defense. Chiefs are 16th. So I've given the Chiefs the mental advantage defensively, but our numbers are saying the Bills have the defensive advantage. I also keep coming back to last year matters too in the history of Mahomes and the Chiefs, and I think that could be a factor. So 3-point spread here. Where you leaning, man?
I do think the Buffalo have a real chance in this one.
Pick 'em.
Huh?
Pick them.
I might. I like their ability to slow down Patrick Mahomes and that offense. I also potentially like their ability even more if Patrick Mahomes is injured and therefore not 100% himself. And then I don't think Josh Allen's going to play as badly as he did either last week or the last time they played. And if Josh Allen plays like the way he's played most of the season, that is one of the most difficult offenses in the league to stop. So, all right, let's pick the upset. Let's go Buffalo.
Man, you started to talk me into it with this Mahomes injury stuff. I don't pick against the Chiefs, though, as a matter of practice. It's just, I'm going to lean the Chiefs. Somebody's going to have their legend, multiplied by 1,000, though. It's either, battered Mahomes drags the Chiefs to victory. Josh Allen drags the Bills back to the Super Bowl.
Well, Josh Allen chasing a $500 million contract. That's what you get if you turn your franchise into a Super Bowl winner again.
He's made himself a lot of money this year,
yeah.
Josh Allen. The other side, Rodgers going for Super Bowl number 2, Brady going for legend status. There's so much on the line this weekend. I love it. It's going to be great. The top 4 teams in the NFL. Good job, NFL. But I'm picking the Chiefs. Usually
when you get to this stage, there's at least one, usually actually multiple teams where you're like nothing really good comes out of that team winning the Super Bowl. There's no story attached to it. It's just, all right, they won. But now you just went through them. Every one of these teams, there's a really good story to come out of it if they win.
There's always a story, Sam.
Mahomes already becomes a legend. Rodgers magnifies gets the second ring, which beats Favre, eventually.
Yeah.
Brady becomes Michael Jordan plus, and who's the last one? Josh Allen drags the Buffalo Bills to their first ever one. 4 Super Bowls and all right. 4 of them losing. They get one with Josh Allen.
Yeah, and don't forget, all offseason we talked about the Chiefs and their dynasty and all that stuff. It doesn't mean things are easy. If the Chiefs work their way into the Super Bowl here, it's very difficult. And just going into this weekend, they're playing their top competitor, the team that has the best chance of knocking them off. So should be a great weekend. We're looking forward to it. So I'm picking Packers, Chiefs, and you're picking Packers, Bills.
Yep.